Clemson is the best team in the ACC.
You are Locked On College Football, smothered and covered, with your host, Barrett Sallee. Your one-stop shop for everything college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, welcome into the Tuesday edition of College Football Smothered and Covered. Appreciate you checking out the show. Don't forget to subscribe, share it with your friends, do all of that stuff. Let this show be known. If you don't subscribe and you don't give it a thumbs up and you don't share it, we don't get the viewership through YouTube's algorithm, through Apple's algorithm. So please do that. Today's show brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big NFL return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and they'll give you $150 in bonus bets. That's guaranteed. $150 in bonus bets with your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. It is Tuesday, and that means it's Fan Q&A day. Got a couple questions from fans that I am very excited to answer. Also, one from the subtext group. You can subscribe to the subtext group right below. So we will give preferential treatment to those who sign up for that. It is also Tell the Truth Tuesday. So we're going to tell the truth about some things that you might not be thinking about. Tell the Truth Tuesday. Football programs have it. We might as well have it here on the show. And the first truth that we are going to get to on Tell the Truth Tuesday involves the Clemson Tigers. Everybody in the ACC is talking about Miami. And look, I get it. Miami has been phenomenal at times. And that disclaimer is what's most important. I'll be honest. I was watching the Florida State game on Saturday. Miami looked average at best. And Florida State just kind of hung around with a backup quarterback. That was the biggest thing. This was a backup quarterback, and Miami couldn't pull away. They've won 2 games in dramatic, controversial fashion. So I think Miami being a top 5 team, Miami being a shoo-in to win the ACC, a lot of that is built on an unstable foundation. It's built on quicksand. It's a house of cards, so to speak. Not to say that'll come tumbling down. Not to say that the season will get engulfed by the quicksand. They probably will go to the playoff. That's the truth of the matter. Even if they don't win the ACC championship game, they're going to go to the playoff. Clemson's better. Clemson's better than Miami. I think, and we saw this with LSU. We saw this with Texas A&M. You lose an out-of-conference game early, and everyone just sort of tunes out. But that game counts as much as the one last week, the one the week before, the one next week. In this day and age of college football, it's a lot like hoops. You have a transient roster. Takes a couple games to figure yourselves out. In basketball, that could be a month, 2 months. Hell, it could be 3 months into the season before you figure out your identity. Clemson has figured out its identity. And I said after the Georgia game, I covered that game, that Cade Klubnik was never going to evolve, that Clemson simply can't find a quarterback. Because in that game, it was a lot of the problem. The problem still existed for Cade Klubnik. Couldn't stretch the field, didn't read defenses, was a tick off on certain passes. All of that existed in the Georgia game. It doesn't exist anymore. 8.4 yards per game, 20 touchdowns, and only 3 picks. 8.4 yards per game is the biggest thing. Not only is he trying to stretch the field, they're allowing him to stretch the field. That was the issue. They didn't trust him. It was clear they didn't trust him last year, and clearly they were having a hard time trusting him this year. They've let it rip. They've let it rip. And it has opened things up for the rushing attack. It has opened things up for everything. And that rushing attack is fantastic. Phil Maffa, third in the ACC, almost 100 yards rushing per game. So by Cade Klubnik becoming a better passer, becoming a legit weapon in multiple ways, Phil Maffa has had success. The offensive line has had success. They've only allowed 30 tackles for loss for the entire season. All of that has to do with Cade Klubnik. And it's bearing it out on the scoreboard as well. Clemson's offense is dynamic. Clemson's offense is legit. Clemson's offense is, dare I say, back to what it was when Trevor Lawrence was there, when Deshaun Watson is there. It is a weapon among weapons. Check this out. 5 of 7 games. 5 of 7 games. They've been over the 40. Well, I should say 5 of 7 games, 40 or more points. Not over the 40-point mark. 40 or more points. That matters. Now, I know we can say competition, blah, 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 blah. By the end of the season, nobody's played anybody. That's just how college football works. It's a stupid argument. If that's your immediate thought, dig a little deeper. Got to get some coffee because it was an early morning. But this Clemson offense has become one of the best units in the entire ACC. And in an ACC that doesn't really have a superpower, because like we talked about earlier, I don't think Miami is a superpower. They're good. Are they going to make the ACC championship game? Probably. Are they going to make the playoff? Probably. Are they a team that can make the playoff and actually win it? My answer is I don't think so. My answer for Clemson is probably okay, we'll see, but more than Miami. Because they're evolving. Because they've transformed themselves from what we saw in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which was same old Clemson, afraid to let Cade Klubnik stretch the field, coaching around the quarterback. They've evolved from that to running through the quarterback, letting Cade be everything you thought he could be. And I've talked to some folks in around that program, and the consensus is that Cade is kind of like Josh Dobbs. If you remember Josh Dobbs, I'm not talking about talent or win or anything else. It took a lot for Josh Dobbs to win the Tennessee job because he was a gamer. Practices were not sexy. Practices were a little bit of a problem. You put him in the game, you let him loose, and things happen. Things happen. So that is number 1 in Tell the Truth Tuesday. We're going to go to another team in the ACC, SMU. Folks, I got to tell you, Rhett Lashley's been on this show. I think he's a great coach. I actually talked to him after the game last week with Duke and I asked him how many years he aged during that game, and he said 15. And I thought it'd honestly be more because They had 6 turnovers and still won. That was remarkable. But folks, let me tell you, tell the truth Tuesday, SMU is probably going to make the college football playoff because they have a chance at Gerald J. Ford Stadium in Dallas this week to take care of Pitt. Now, I know folks are going to say, oh, I don't know about Pitt. Eli Holstein's got some issues, but Pitt's strong in the eyes of the committee. Not saying they're a great team. If you think they're not, fine. We can have that discussion all day long. But in the eyes of the selection committee, Pitt is a top 20 team. Pitt is a good win, a quality win. They've got to win at Louisville, which Louisville, whatever, but they're a top 25 team right now. They beat Pitt. SMU beats Pitt. Bye week, Boston College at Virginia, Cal. They're going to be a one-loss team going into championship weekend. Now, just got done talking about Clemson. Talked about Miami. SMU at that point would be undefeated in the ACC as well. I'm not going to pretend to know who's going to get into the ACC championship game. There are a lot of factors between now and then. We can sit here and say, well, if everybody wins out, whatever, but we don't know what that's going to happen, right? So let's just say that they're going to be undefeated in the ACC, along with probably, I think Clemson, I think Miami too. At that point, it doesn't matter. SMU is going to the college football playoff. Time to wrap your arms around it. In fact, I think there'll be 3 teams from the ACC. If I had to guess right now, there will be 3 teams in the ACC in the college football playoff, which before the season I thought too, Florida State and Clemson. So it's not that crazy. I also thought there'd be 5 SEC teams. I don't know if that's going to be the case now either. SMU's going to the college football playoff. Lincoln Riley. All right. I bought into Lincoln Riley right when he got hired. I was like, oh man, he's going to bring USC back to dominance. He's going to bring them back to what I remember USC as being when I was in college and just out of college, the national championship caliber team, one that can win anything, win at the highest of high levels. Folks, they're sitting there at 4-4 right now. A lot of the same problems they had last year exist this year. They got Washington, Nebraska, at UCLA, and Notre Dame. They're going to lose 2 more games. One of them is going to beat a Notre Dame. The other is probably going to beat a Nebraska. So you're talking about a 6-6. It might be somebody else, but they're going to be 6-6. A 6-6 USC team might get Lincoln Riley fired. We should start talking about Lincoln Riley on the hot seat. Because it's one thing to have one bad year, to be mediocre. It's another to have an even worse mediocre season. In a new conference, when you're trying to make a statement, you go from USC, big bad USC 2 years ago, to, okay, they're probably going to contend in the Big Ten, but we don't really know yet, to below average Big Ten team in 3 seasons. I'm not saying he's going to be, but we should start considering the possibility. He's going to be one of those guys. If this happens and they go 6-6, that is sort of teetering. The administrators, the boosters start looking around and say, is there anybody better? Is there anybody better that's attainable? And the answer is we don't know yet. We don't know yet. But the question's going to be asked, and that is the most important thing. We'll take a break. When we come back, fan Q&A. You ask me questions, I will answer them. It's college football smothered and covered. Today's show brought to you by Roy. It's time to recognize the Roy Player of the Week. So far this season, we've pooled over $20,000 to support players on Roy. Micro deposits lead to massive change. With the Roy app, you can direct your support to the athletes you love, ensuring that all funds go to the specific player you choose. Unlike collectives, you know exactly where your support is going. And you even receive exclusive content like personal videos and updates after the season. The best part, it's risk-free. If an athlete transfers or doesn't deliver the content, you get your money back. The best part, that's the best part. It's risk-free. This week, I'm supporting Marcel Reed. Why not? Marcel Reed was a monster against LSU. I just pitched in $100, and I'd love for you to join me. Even $10 makes a difference. Let's show Marcel the love and keep him connected to Texas A&M. Remember, pay today, celebrate tomorrow. Your support sets your team up for success. Plus, don't miss out on Roy's exciting giveaway with 2 tickets to a game in November. Just download Roy, create an account, and enter referral code Locked On, and you're entered. Already on Roy? Any contributions to an athlete's campaign also gets you entered automatically. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited. Download Roy now and join the NIL game with no subscriptions and no fees. And be sure to check them out on Instagram, Facebook, and X at Roy_return on you for more investments. Roy, support the players, change the game. Fan Q&A. It's time for fan Q&A. Walk on Red Shirts, longtime follower of mine, does a great job over there and an all-around good guy. Would South Carolina or Florida be a better fit for Deion if either comes open? First of all, I don't think South Carolina's coming open. And honestly, said this a couple weeks ago, I don't know if Florida is either. South Carolina is not. I don't know if Florida is either. But let's just play out this hypothetical situation. It's Florida, and it's not just because of his Florida ties, specifically his Florida State ties. It's because he would bring that wow factor, right? He would get Florida boosters who are craving anything. He'd give them hope. He'd give them money. More importantly, they'd give him money, a lot of it. Now, I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, why would he go to Florida when he went to Florida State? I'm not going to pretend to know Deion. I've met him a couple times, once when I was a kid and once when I was just out of college, when I was doing some stuff regionally here in Atlanta for a regional sports network. So I don't know him all that much. I don't know his thought process, but to me, he's got the kind of attitude where he would say, okay, I'm going to do the craziest thing just to prove to everybody that I can. I might be wrong. I know he's got Florida State ties. He's one of the most passionate Florida State people out there. That I do know. Because him and his friend Jamie Dukes, Jamie helped me get my job straight out of college. Jamie and Deion are boys, and both of them are Florida State to the core. They're a big reason why the tomahawk chop actually exists in Atlanta. That's a different story, but it's the truth. You can look it up. I think he'd be a better fit at Florida. Now, and it's because he can get better players. He's not going to get Travis Hunter and Chidder Sanders type players immediately, but he'll get them eventually. At South Carolina, I don't think Shane's getting fired. I like Shane. He's been on this show too. But I think it's harder to get the athletes that can win at an elite level at South Carolina. I'm not saying that Shane has done a bad job of that. I think Shane's done a great job of that. But it's much easier to market Florida than South Carolina. And that's really what Deion is, a marketer, right? The first goal that Rick George had with Deion is make the program desirable, put it into the spotlight, do whatever you can to make Colorado cool again. And he did. And he can do that anywhere. Next question from Jim Holt. Targeting is getting out of hand. Offensive players need to be checked too. What's the answer? We saw an offensive player pop for targeting in the A&M LSU game. I've long said that needs to happen. Jamison Williams, when he was at Alabama, got popped for that as well. It should happen more often because offensive players feel absolutely no threat to doing it. It's the same thing with face masks, right? Offensive players stiff arm all the time. They squeeze a little bit, and in the midst of that stiff arm probably should be called for a face mask. It never happens, just as it never happens for targeting for offensive players. It should, but what sells tickets? What drives ratings? Offense. That will never be discussed as the reason, but it is the reason. All right. Now, as far as targeting goes, I think there are two things. One, they're calling it less, and they're actually reviewing all of the calls. That is fine. They're being very strict on replay review. What is targeting, right? Like they are not. If there's a question, it reverts back to not targeting, which is fine. That's the way it should be. The problem is, it seems like the definition of what targeting is defined, like has changed. Like there was a guy in a Florida game this year who got popped for targeting for hitting somebody in the butt, right? And I know it's because he launched or went with his head, crown of the helmet. I get it, letter of the law, whatever. But I've said for a long time, just like, and look, I'm not the biggest hoops guy, but it should be like hoops. Targeting 1, targeting 2. Targeting 2. You go out head hunting, hell yeah, you should be kicked out of the game. Hell yeah, you should be assessed 15 yards penalty. Absolutely. You go head hunting, you should get the weight of the college football officiating world put down on you. Targeting 1 should be, in my mind, okay, if you want to make it 15 yards, fine. I would say 10, because generally speaking, incidental targeting is not that dangerous, right? It's dangerous, but if it's an accidental hit, it's an accidental hit. You know, it's not going to be as violent. So you want to make it 10 yards? Fine. I'm fine with that. I think that's what should happen. It's not going to happen. Why is it not going to happen? Because it makes sense. And in our world of college football, if it makes sense, that means it's never going to happen. God, I love our beautifully dysfunctional sport. Today's show brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. That's right, $5 bet gets you $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same exact page in which you placed your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the National Football League. That will wrap it up. Join the subtext group. It's right below. It's right below the information. Look down. Look down right now on your phone, on your computer, on your iPad. It is right there, whether you're watching on YouTube or Apple or Spotify. You can sign up, use promo code college. You can text me. You can text. If you sign up, you will be able to text me directly right from this thing. This thing right here. It's your phone. I don't know. Everyone's got a phone, right? Everyone's got a smartphone. You don't have to waste money and monitor how many text messages you get like you did 15 years ago. That's a true thing. All you Utes out there, you used to actually have to check how many texts you've sent each month. And if you sent too many, you have to pay more. Ridiculous. But sign up for the subtext group. It's right there below. You can text me. I can text you. It'll be fun. Thank you for making this your first listen. Hey, for your second listen, go check out Locked on College Football. Spencer McLaughlin does a great job over there covering the entire sport. As for here, tomorrow will be Big 12 day. We'll have a crossover episode. So all you Big 12 fans, keep an eye out for that coming up tomorrow.